Hey everybody, Kimberly here, and I'm really excited to give you my take on the 4 expansions, one of which is an entire standalone to Dune Imperium. So when this game came out, I was just blown away. I have an entire video dedicated to this game when it came out on my channel. So if you want to get that close up, here's what's going on in the game, please go and visit that video. I am going to give you a brief overview before I get into those expansions. Because this is a deck building game, it's also a worker placement game. There's going to be a board in Dune Imperium, and players are going to be placing out their workers, and they start the game with 2 and can get up to a 3rd and possibly a temporary one. And when you place out your workers, you're activating certain locations with one of the cards that's in your hand. And so you've got your deck, you start with your initial starter deck, and then the cards that you don't play to put out your workers into various locations, activating a variety of things, you will then play down at the end of your round, at the end of playing all of your workers, and you'll get the bonus that's at the bottom of the cards. So the really cool thing about this is the multi-use of the cards in this game, and a lot of the decks that come with these expansions build on that and really give players a variety of avenues to take to get to victory. So the game is really clever, it's really fun, it is absolutely a race to get the most victory points to cross over the threshold to trigger the end of the game, and there is a really significant conflict or combat at the end of every round where players are essentially vying for pecking order with these really cool cards that give you a 1st, 2nd, 3rd in placement. And it gets better and better as the game progresses because there are different levels of these conflict cards, 1, 2, and 3. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk about Rise of Ix first. This was the first expansion in 2022 that came out for Dune Imperium. And I want to move on and talk about Immortality, and then I'm going to stop and then pull out Uprising and Bloodlines. And I want to talk about them chronologically for the most part because I'm going to have a variety of recommendations at the end of this video and throughout, and my take with all the different expansions. So please stay tuned to the end, but also I've got some really nice little tidbits and insights as the video continues. So right now what I've got out here are the major components that you're going to get for Rise of Ix. One of the first things is you're going to get this overlay, this CHOAM board overlay. And it just takes this Landsrad Council and shrinks it a little from the original to make space for this expanded CHOAM space. Instead of paying money to get spice or to gain money, you're now moving up on this shipping track and you have more choice. Because when you activate this shipping symbol, what you're going to do is move up, or you're going to move your marker down, collecting everything along the way. So when you see this symbol here, because well, you have to have 2 influence here with that particular Spacing Guild Council, you are going to go here and move your marker up 2, and you're going to get higher until you have to come back down again. But you can, it's like a kind of like how long do you wait to get the bonuses? Because the bonuses are really cool. So I think CHOAM in this board right here, along with that Spacing Guild, is just a really dynamite addition. This board right here is going to be your Ix board, and it offers these tech upgrades or these tech tiles. So when you come here, this is going to be what triggers the card you have to play to go here and any particular cost or any prereqs as you see with that influence. And you're going to have the option of, oh, it looks like it was a little too tall. There we go. So you're going to have these tiles. I'm going to turn them face down because that's the way they look. And you're going to have 3 to pick from. And you can come here or here. And then what you do is you get a discount on them. You also can place these markers down here to kind of build up discounts for future turns. And then once you grab these tiles, they're going to cost spice. And they are going to give you maybe immediate benefits or end game benefits or ongoing benefits, or you can trash this and do this thing. And so the tech tiles are really cool. I like the tech tiles quite a bit. Another feature that you've got are these dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts are now a symbol. You'll see it right here. Anytime you see the dreadnought symbol, you're going to be able to place your dreadnought out into the conflict board, and instead of a troop, that costs 2, or it's not cost 2, that is valued 2 in the fight, dreadnoughts are valued at 3. And if you don't win the fight, your dreadnought goes back to the garrison as opposed to back into your pool to have to essentially replace out with an action of a dreadnought symbol. Better yet, if you win the conflict, your dreadnought goes out to a particular space and is going to receive a benefit on the board, which is really, really cool. So dreadnoughts have a couple features, and it really adds to the conflict of having a troop. And even more interestingly is you can have a dreadnought by itself, and it doesn't need to have a troop to then score, because if you don't have a troop in the conflict, no matter how many swords you have, you don't get to count your swords because you don't have a troop or a person or a presence in the fight, and your dreadnought will count as that presence without having to put a troop out. So that's actually incredibly cool. Now, the last thing you're going to see in this Rise of Ix are going to be 6 new character cards that vary from 1, which is an easy complexity, to 2, to 3, and then you've got your 4. So they get a little bit more complex, they get a little bit more interesting, a little bit more nuanced. I will say that the character cards from Ix are not as exciting to me as some of the other upcoming expansion characters. So for the most part, that's what you get here in Ix, and I will say that Ix is a fantastic upgrade. I love the Chome board, I love the text. The dreadnoughts are cool. They have a couple rules that come along with them, and you only get 2. So you can't really overuse them. They're not overpowered for players, but they are incredibly powerful if you activate them. And then again, I can kind of take or leave those new character board cards that you'll play with. So Rise of Ix pairs with Dune Imperium, the base game, incredibly well, and I think it makes the game stronger, more interesting, and offers more choice. Now, on top of this, you're going to get Immortality. And Immortality is probably my favorite expansion of all. So Immortality offers players a couple really, really cool things. So this is going to be the Bene Tleilax board. And this board right here is crazy. You look at it, you're just like, this is really, really interesting. So you're going to have this. You've got your research station overlay tile. And you're going to see that little microscope symbol. Players are going to be here, and whenever you get the microscope, you're going to be progressing on this track right here. And then there's also a space up here with a little bug or a beetle symbol, and you're going to be making progress on this track. This track can get you possibly 2 victory points. Now, the reason I like this Immortality upgrade is because it gives players another way to get victory points. And I find the game to be pretty tight and restricting when it comes to getting victory points outside of your intrigue cards, or outside of which now exists tech tiles. And so having tech and then having this Bene Tleilax board just opens up a lot of possibilities for different paths you could take. And this board is just really, really cool. Once you have enough of these green cubes, you can buy these Tleilax cards. And there is a new feature called Graft. And Graft is a way to pair the card that says Graft with another card. And you essentially are playing both of those cards at the same time, putting out your worker into any of the 2 spaces. So there's little spaces on this side, there's spaces on the other side that you could go to, and then if there's any kind of benefit in the top part of the bar, that's what you're actually going to get when you play the card. Otherwise, you're just going to be playing it at the end, and you're going to be getting the bottom benefit. But look at this, choose 2 when you graft this card. That's amazing. That's so good. Oh, I want to move up on the bug, and I want to get a water. Who doesn't need water in this game? So these cards are amazing. They're fantastic. The research station allows you to grab 2 cards, which is dynamite, and then you've got a movement on the microscope. It's great. You just keep moving this direction until you get to the very end, and you will either get spice or you'll get bug movement, and there are other cards that pair well with this, intrigues, that give you bonuses for these locations too. So Immortality, super, super, super cool. And all of this together, partnered with Dune Imperium, the base game, really, really dynamite. I will say that I prefer slightly Immortality more than Ix, but I think they're both fantastic upgrades and wonderful additions. So with that said, I'm now going to put this stuff away and I'm going to grab the next two, Uprising and Bloodlines. Uprising is an entire standalone, slightly revision of the base game Dune Imperium, and then Bloodlines offers a nice pairing with that particular board, but there is compatibility with the previous two expansions that I just talked about to play with Uprising and Bloodlines. I just feel like these two were in mind whenever the base game existed, and then they did that kind of revamp, re-seeing of the board in a really cool way, and then made Bloodlines to partner well with that. So, see me in just a second. All right, so I am back, and now I've got Uprising, the board set up here so that I can bring in all those components. So this is the brand new board, and there is this space where these are protected essentially. And the sandworms, which are now a new component in Uprising, with, again, almost all the same things, just some slightly adjusted locations, like you'll see out here with our Fremen, Bene Gesserit, Spacing Guild, and Emperor. You're going to see that there's these two new additions to the Landsrad Council, and there is a much smaller Tome section, which allows you to get contracts. And so that's going to be what I'm going to show you in just a minute. You also, these are the sandworms right here. You're going to need to do a couple things before you get the sandworms. First, you have to go and get a hook. So to gain a hook, players are going to have to go and get a hook. You don't start with one, but once you have it, you place it here, and you're going to see that you can gain one of those hooks at this location. Once you do have it, you can go here, and essentially you can have your hook that allows you to gain one or two, depending on how much water you spend out here in the deep desert or the Haga Basin. And you're essentially taking these sandworms and you are being able to use them. And sandworms are essentially worth 3 victory points. A sword is always worth 1. A cube or a troop is worth 2. And so sandworms are going to be part of the game, but there are only 4 that can be in use at any given time. But you can't play your sandworms until this is essentially broken. The barrier is broken. So there are a lot of stages to these sandworms, how you use them, how you hook them, and so forth. But they could be incredibly powerful. There are also these objective cards that players are going to play with, and essentially, there's my conflict and my intrigues as part of it. You have these cards that have a particular symbol on it, and you will have this out in the open, essentially vying for the win in the conflict. So whenever the conflict is resolved, the player who wins is going to win one of these particular cards. And when you have 2 of the same kind, like this, you can essentially turn it in for a victory point. So getting same kinds is really great, and winning, of course, now has an even more weight added to it for conflicts, which is fascinating. So the base game, again, you're going to have a couple different spaces. Obviously, any of the spaces with the sandworms are going to be, new. The way you get your hook is new. This location research station is the upgrade that was essentially in the research station upgrade, but it's not tech tiles. And then you're going to see a couple changes over here down your guilds and things like that. So here's what the Immortality offers. There are going to be these brand new fighters. And these fighters are going to essentially be placed out into various locations, and they are going to be up for grabs. And the up for grabs part of this is interesting because they not only come to fight with you, you have to pay to put them into play, but they are going to come with some kind of characteristic or feature. And I think that's fantastic. They're called Sardaukar Commander Skills. And so there's going to be 3 of these skills that are available whenever you take one of these figures. And you'll essentially take them and then you'll say, oh, I'm going to do this because I've really got a high ranking on the Emperor. And if I have 3 influence, I'll get 2 extra swords in my fight when this particular fighter, my commander, is in that particular fight. So there are these specialty fighters that you can gain going to a variety of locations where they begin, which is fantastic. And there are just a whole bunch of these characteristics or features. The other thing is that you've got these tiles. These tiles are going to be your contract tokens. And this is part of your Chome module. If you're playing with the Chome module from Dune Imperium Uprising, you can play, and then you have these. These are going to essentially be goals, going to a particular place, doing a particular thing, and once you complete your contract, then you're going to gain what's on it. I think these tiles are really, really, really cool. So you go essentially to the research station, and you are going to, with the figure, you're going to get $2 or $2, and then, aha, what's this symbol? I haven't talked about this symbol yet. There is spying, and one of the really cool features about the pairing of Uprising with Bloodlines is that you can spy now, and players have this cylinder, and the cylinder is going to allow them to go to a location that says an eyeball or a spy. Maybe it's called a spy ball. And whenever you put your figure there, you are saying that you could essentially go to one of the adjacent locations without having to play a card that matches that particular type. It's really, really cool. And if you don't want to use it that way, you can actually go to a location that it's adjacent to where there is another player, and it allows you to go to that space as well if somebody went there before you got a chance to go there. It's fantastic. It's really, really cool. And there's another feature of bringing your spy pawn back and gaining benefits that way too. So players have these spy figures, just really, really fantastic. So along with that, you've got even more leaders. These leaders, I think, are a little bit more interesting. I found them to be fantastic. I really enjoyed playing Esmar Tuek. You have an upgraded Duncan, Idaho from the first game. And again, these go from easy to medium to hard, and there's no level 4 here, but they do tell you how your figure works, what they do, and it's just really cool. I find these characters to be much more interesting and engaging, and I kind of want to play these figures more than the ones from the previous expansion. So there is a whole bunch to like here, particularly the Sardaukar commanders and their specialty ability. The sandworms and the hooks gets a little complex. And I will say that the luck of the draw and the balance of these particular cards when they come out, the objectives, can be really, really unforgiving. And you only win essentially, in your conflict card every now and then. And if it's just not the right objective color, then you may not be able to trade them in for any victory points. So there is a little bit of a gamble there. But I think that it's just really, really clever. So with that said, all I want to do is say that if you'd like to, and you haven't invested in Dune Imperium, I would recommend getting the base game and then getting those first 2 expansions, which is Rise of Ix and Immortality. I think that's a wonderful way to begin the game, or just get the base game and play it a couple times and then add those expansions. Then, let's say you have that game already. Let's say you have the expansions for that already. Do you need to get Uprising? Maybe, maybe not. There are some fantastic features, but I will say that it gets more and more complex when it comes to conflict. And if you really want a way to zhuzh up your troops and your conflict, as opposed to just having troops and swords, then you might want to get this. This has a new feature. It has the sandworm feature. It has the Sardaukar fighters, which I do like the fighters better than I like the sandworms. I think there are a lot of steps to get to the sandworms. And there's always that one person who has to break the barrier. And by them taking that action, it saves everybody else in action to do it. So there is a little bit of that semi-cooperative nature that I don't necessarily appreciate. But I love the contracts that's added here. I love the new upgrades down the side. I love the spies. So if you are an expert gamer, if you are a seasoned gamer, I do highly recommend Uprising with Bloodlines. And then, of course, you can bring in the other 2 expansions to add to this version. But I think I'm going to have 2 slightly different recommendations based on how you're approaching or coming to Dune Imperium. But I do recommend that you get the game. I think the base game is dynamite. I think the deck building and the worker placement and the conflict, this is a really big conflict game, especially with intrigue cards that have some attacks and have some really nice sneaky abilities. I think this is just a really delightful race game because this is our threshold of 10 points. If you can reach that threshold and trigger the end of the game at the right time, you might come out successful. So there's a lot to like here. And yes, we do have both boxes. We've got the original, and packaged in with that already with the components are the Rise of Ixen Immortality, and then packaged inside Uprising is Bloodlines. So again, a lot to like here. Some of the components in each of the expansions, I'm kind of like, I could take or leave, but for the most part, there are just enough really cool features in every single iteration of this game that I think they're all absolutely worth it. I mean, especially if this is going to be the game you play. And I will say that what comes with Uprising is a 6-player game, which is not possible in the base game with just the up to 4 players. And it also has a solo and a 2-player. And so if you want to really make this game yours and fit your size for your group, your gaming group, Uprising is definitely the choice you should make as well. All right, everybody, that is it for me. I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.